Welcome back to our explainer, everyone. Today, we are looking at Article 203 of the Constitution, which is all about who approves the budget. Shankar Aja, I have a big question to kick things off. What exactly happens after the massive government budget is presented? The numbers are on the table, but who holds the real power to say yes or no?
That is exactly where the real fun begins, Ananya. It is the process of deciding which money actually gets approved.
Oh, so it is kind of like a class monitor elections at school? People have to vote and make choices for everyone else.
Spot on, Rohan. It fundamentally comes down to the representatives making those critical choices on behalf of all of us.
So that brings us to Article 203. It is the constitutional rule explaining exactly how the budget is voted on and approved by the Legislative Assembly.
But Acha, the government budget is massive. Does every single individual item get voted on by the politicians?
That is a wonderful question, Mira. To answer it, we have to look at two different categories. First, we have what are called charged expenses. These are fixed and compulsory. Then we have demands for grants. Those are flexible and get voted on. Now, charged expenses are things like the salaries for judges and the governor. These specific essential items are actually not voted on in the Assembly. They are completely protected.
What? No voting? That sounds completely unfair. I understand why you might feel that way, Rohan. But here is the key. The Assembly is absolutely allowed to debate and discuss these essential expenses. They simply cannot change or reject them. This ensures that the core pillars of the state, like the justice system, keep running smoothly without getting caught up in political bargaining. Let me tell you a small story to help picture this. Imagine your school is planning a big annual day event. Now, a portion of your money has to go to the cost of the stage and the electricity. Those are absolutely fixed, compulsory costs. The rest of the money represents all the other flexible activities. Your teacher would tell you that you must pay for the stage and electricity first, regardless of what else you want to do.
Well, obviously, otherwise there is no event at all.
Oh, I get it now. Without paying for the basic setup, the whole event just collapses. Just like those mandatory stage costs, the government's charged expenditures have to be paid without the risk of rejection.
Right, because if you do not pay the judges, the whole legal system would just halt. It is a total necessity.
So, Aja, what about the rest of the money?
That brings us to the exciting part. Section 1. Demands for grants, or as we can call them, the exciting, flexible expenses. Whenever we talk about those flexible, non-fixed expenses, it basically brings up a simple question. Can we spend this much money on this specific work? A demand for a grant is the government formally standing up and asking the Assembly for permission to spend a specific amount of money on a project, like building a brand new highway or funding a local hospital. How does the Assembly actually make their decision when the government asks for this money?
They have three distinct choices. First, they can say yes and approve the money fully. Second, they can say no and reject the project entirely. Or, third, they can reduce it. This means they approve the idea but authorize less money than the government originally asked for.
Oh, wow. That is exactly like bargaining in a shop.
Aja, you hit the nail on the head, Rohan. The power to reduce the requested amount is exactly like bargaining in a market. It is a fundamental democratic tool. It ensures that the public's money is scrutinized, debated, and ultimately used wisely by the leaders.
Imagine you and your friends are planning a weekend picnic budget. You divide the budget into three things: pizza, games, and transport. I vote that the absolute biggest portion of the budget goes to lots and lots of pizza. Haha, I knew you would say that, Rohan.
So in our story, let us say one friend suggests an opening budget. They say, let us spend 2,000 rupees on food.
I would vote yes, right away. Give me the 2,000 rupees worth of food.
And that right there represents the initial demand for a grant in our constitutional analogy.
But what happens if that initial ask is simply too much money for the group to handle?
That is exactly what the friends in the story realize. They sit down, they discuss the original ask of 2,000 rupees, and they realize it is a bit too extravagant. So they successfully bargain the amount down to a much more reasonable 1,500 rupees.
That is just like demands for grants. Adjusting that picnic food budget down through debate and agreement is exactly the mechanism the Legislative Assembly uses. When the government hands over a demand for a grant, the Assembly holds them accountable.
Wait a minute. Can anyone just randomly stand up and ask the Assembly for money whenever they feel like it?
That brings us to a massive question, Rohan. Let us look at Section 2. the governor's recommendation, or the permission rule?
The answer to your question is a firm no. No demand can be made without the governor's recommendation. This is a crucial gatekeeper rule and a vital constitutional safeguard. You simply cannot formally ask the Assembly to vote on a grant without getting the official, formal recommendation from the governor first. It centralizes all the financial responsibility.
Why do we need permission before asking the whole group, though? This constitutional rule exists to ensure that all financial requests are serious. They need to be properly planned by the executive branch. They definitely cannot just be random, uncoordinated ideas thrown at the Assembly by anyone. It prevents total chaos.
Oh man. So this rule basically means I cannot just randomly stand up and ask my family for 5,000 rupees for snacks without getting permission first? Exactly, Rohan. Even you need prior approval from the family before demanding a snack grant. It is just like that. The executive needs that formal recommendation before asking for the money.
When you look at the whole system, it is actually beautifully balanced. Some expenses are fixed, which ensures the essential parts of the government never shut down. And some are discussed and controlled, ensuring that the politicians remain accountable to the people's money.
Discuss everything, but vote only on flexible spending. That is Article 203 distilled into one perfect sentence. The Assembly has the right to shine a light on all spending through debate, but their voting power is reserved exclusively for those flexible demands for grants.
You all have understood this perfectly. So, I have a final question for you to think about. When you plan something with your friends, do you blindly accept every cost, stubbornly reject everything, or do you discuss and adjust wisely? I think we should definitely adjust wisely and make decisions as a team.
Yes, balance is so important. We have to think and decide together.
Aja, I am so glad to hear that. You truly understand the spirit of the Constitution. The government budget is a carefully balanced system of fixed necessities and debated choices. So the next time you hear about a budget passing, ask yourself, what were the fixed costs and what did they manage to bargain down? Thank you for joining our explainer today, everyone.